In the real world, lights fall off with distance, so the further an object is from a light, the less of that light will fall on the object. Now in Maya, the default is to have no fall off on the lights. So this kind of violates the law of physics, but this is a great way to illuminate scenes because the light is consistent across distance. Now, if we want to create more realistic lighting, we can add fall off to our lights. So here I have a simple scene with one spotlight in it, and let's go ahead and turn on lighting here. Now I put this spotlight fairly low so you can kind of see how it affects objects at distance. If we go into the Lights Attribute Editor, you'll see that right below color and intensity we have something called decay rate. Now decay rate determines how the light decays or falls off with distance. So we have four options here. One is no decay, which is the default. Then we have linear, quadratic, and cubic. Now the difference between these three is just how fast does the light fall off. So in the real world, light falls off with the square of the distance, and that would be quadratic. So quadratic is real world. But we can go somewhere between nothing and real world by doing what's called a linear fall off, which just falls off by distance, but not the square of the distance. So let's go through these one by one to see how they fall off. So if I do linear, notice how the light almost looks like it turns off. But that's because the intensity of the light is falling off. So if I increase the intensity, you can see how the objects that are closer are getting more lit than the objects that are far away. Now by default, this slider only goes to 10, but I can pump that up very easily just by typing in a number. So if I want to, I can type in 100, and 100 becomes my new center value. So you can see that between 0 and 100, it goes to there, and then if I want, I can illuminate even further. But as you can see, the light is brighter closer to the light than it is further away. Now, if we want realistic fall off, we can go one more and go to quadratic, which falls off with the square of the distance. And again, because we're falling off faster, the intensity needs to be pumped up. So at this point, 100 to 200 isn't enough. So let's go ahead and make this 1,000. And as you can see, that starts to add more light, but maybe I even need more than that. Let's type in, say, 4,000. And when I do, you can start to see how this particular light works, is that it's really illuminating the things that are close to it, but far away, it's not so much. So if I were to select this light and say move it, you can see this a little bit easier. You can see that when it's very close to the light, we're getting a hot spot, but we're still not illuminating those things that are far away. Now, if I want to go even more fall off, I can go greater than reality and do what's called a cubic fall off, which falls off with the cube of the distance. So again, my intensity goes down and I need to move that up. So let's go ahead and say 20,000. Let's go ahead and put a 5-figure number in there. And as you can see, that might not even be enough. But if I move this closer, you can see that those objects that are very close to the light get illuminated, but again, that light falls off. So a cubic fall off might be best for something where you want light in one area of the scene, but you don't want that to spill over into other areas. So by default, lights in Maya do not fall off, but we can add fall off to lights by falling them off either linearly, by the square of the distance, or the cube of the distance. And this can create a more realistic effect for your lighting.